Every movie has random trivia. And here at Trivial Theater, I explore some of these movies and the random circumstances that make them the weird creations that we love. It's an earth-shattering event. We're hitting up Tremors 4. The legend begins. Had you going there for a second, didn't I? How to describe the first 3 minutes of this one? Rocks, lots of banter, headless guy, scared expression. Oh, and everybody dies, with the exception of this lucky bastard. I think that covers it. We pick up in the town of Rejection, where everybody is packing up and rejecting the fledgling town because of the closing of the mine. Only a select few remain, including the general store owner and his family, a hotelier, and the only miner to survive the previous set of scenes. With that, we're then greeted with the general mantra for the making of this movie.
Word of advice, young man. Anyone can be taken advantage of, and if you can, do.
A corporate guy with a massive stick wedged firmly up his ass comes into town to reopen the mine, and he brings a lot of baggage with him, in addition to a comical amount of luggage. Both the previous line and my attempt at humor in regards to his emotional state have absolutely zero payoff. As per usual, he doesn't believe the story about some crazy underground killer, until he witnesses it for himself. Now, besides putting out an ad for a gunslinger, the town's few residents do what most folks do in this case, and try to ignore it. For an entire month. Now I know, it's the Old West and things take time, but when has historical authenticity played into any of these movies? So I guess a thank you is in order for keeping it a little bit more accurate, but also damn you for making this movie feel even longer! Anyway, a gunslinger shows up after being advertised for, and after a moment of blown suspense involving an apple, and a bigger blown moment involving a massive smoking sausage, they go in search of the graboids. Our intrepid team get more than what they bargained for, as the worms have grown in size, moving from jumping, foot-long babies to the giant tentacled monsters we've come to know. The gunslinger becomes lunch after what should have been a series of suspenseful moments, and the hotelier does some Fast and Furious level wagon driving to save the day. The town seems like a lost cause as the graboids migrate closer, and the corporate guy, who has softened a bit towards the town, packs up and leaves just ahead of the rest of the group. Luckily for us, he returns, ready to rain fire on the incoming worms. The arsenal includes a real-life gun that is honestly so comical, I can't help but laugh a little. Anyway, we reach the climax, and our giant-ass antagonists are blown to kingdom come, leaving their rotting, smelly remains everywhere. Woo! Happy ending. So the thing about this movie is very simple. Despite the Wild West settings, giant guns, and even bigger fucking worms, this movie is boring! Now that is a hell of a blanket statement, but how you turn a classic cult monster into something so completely dull is beyond me. Actually, no, I take that back. Okay, so there are a lot of good points in this movie's favor. It's relatively well shot, the acting is reasonable, and the practical effects stick within the world of Tremors in a good way. Also, with the exception of one pistol, all the weapons are historically accurate. And that strikes me as a cool little detail. They pulled an interesting trick with actor Michael Gross, who played Burt Gummer, a character with an impressive array of weaponry in the first 3 films. In Tremors 4, they 180 this and have him play his character's ancestor, who has no experience or interest in firearms. It's also nice to see a little bit more diversity than your typical token minority cast. It's far from perfect, but for a movie this far into the franchise, it is one small thing in its favor. And it's also more representative of what you would have seen in a classic western town. All this in mind, this movie lacks the one thing that makes the Tremors series special. An over-the-top sense of fun. When the funnest lines come from old prospector sayings,
fill them full of more holes than a cabbage leaf in a hailstorm.
Someone who is proficient with firearms, who can...
Shoot the nuts off a squirrel at 100 paces.
Maybe it's time to reevaluate. The guys from Red Letter Media, who are a great deal wiser than me, make the point that the worst thing a movie can be is boring. And in this case, I think that's true. The original Tremors, and to various degree the other 2 sequels, have been entertainingly bad, so much so that they've gained a certain amount of cult fame. They embrace the fucking craziness of giant graboids, and enjoy the ride. Alternatively, Tremors 4 feels like it was written from a list of things to include, without any understanding of what connects them. This is especially true of the graboids, who despite looking pretty good, feel more like they're filling a quota of screen time than being essential to the plot. It fails to cause a stir, and that's its biggest issue. Now, this is a direct-to-video release, which is an important point as to why this damn thing feels so dead. But it leaves us with an age-old question. If you're going to put effort into making what is essentially a solid, standard sequel, why not give the script a little something extra to make it a tad above ordinary? Or maybe that's just me. Special thanks to Jody and Jamie for the recommendation. So what do you think? Suggestions for movies, trivial questions, comments, ratings, and how the hell you would promote growth in a town called Rejection would be appreciated. Thank you so very much for watching.